Hello and welcome to Dynamics Update. Today is one of the interview episodes, but it's also one of the subject deep dive episodes because this was a subject that I've been talking a lot about on the podcast before, and I think it's a fascinating one because it will change a lot of how we do things in F&O. With me, as usual, of course, is Gustav Sundblad. Welcome, Gustav.
Hello.
And we have a guest that is all the way from the USA, from Microsoft. Hi, Purvesh. Could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Johan. Hello, everyone. My name is Purvesh Vaghasia. I'm a senior solution architect at Microsoft Fast Track. So I'm a part of the supply chain in the United States team, Fast Track team, and I'm the one who is currently driving the Microsoft Dynamics archive feature with the long-term retention, along with the engineering team and the customer experience.
Very nice.
Okay.
Happy to have you here.
Yeah. So I, for one, have a couple of customers who have started to reach out to me and worrying a bit about when they saw the storage report in Power Platform Admin Center, and they saw especially when they saw the percentage numbers, they was like, okay, that's a lot. We have a lot of data that we are not necessarily always paying for, but if we do need to pay for it, it will be fairly expensive. So could you please walk us through the archiving features and the ideas behind what it's actually supposed to do?
Yep, sure. So let me just, I will just try to set up the context first, so that will help to understand the why we need the data archive. So as a part of the, and you made a really good point regarding the storage capacity report that has been introduced in Power Platform Admin Center. So as a part of the transparency from the Microsoft, to that our customers, like where are they right now, or which are the particular, what is their consumption, and which are the tables that participate into that consumption. So that way that our customers and the partners get a chance to review their data growth, and it shows the 90 days of the data growth. So that actually that explain that that how the data has been growing, which are the tables that the data it has been grown, and so that accordingly they can decide their strategy to how to deal with that particular. They can decide whether that these are the records are important, or that some of the data can be cleaned up. We have a list of the cleanup routines that is available in our documentation, and that is a part of the features. So some of the transactional data that you don't need, or the data that participate into the creation of that some sort of the documentations, that doesn't required after that the document, like our sales invoice, order confirmation, packing slips that has been posted, that's no longer required. So some of the records that the sales form table, sales form lines, and so these are the part of the cleanup routine. So you can run set up the cleanup routine, and those records will get cleaned up at the periodic interval. And some of that are the data that is related to that our business, which is required even that further my analytics need, right? Some of that data that will be required from the compliance perspective as well, so that we cannot delete. So we may need to retain those records. However, that I cannot keep it into that my live tables, because if I will keep it in my live tables, we have seen that the performance is getting impacted because of the data growth in the tables. So that is the reason we can say that we have seen in that customers who are live for some longer duration, we observe that they are adding around 0.25 terabytes to 1 terabyte of the data on year-on-year basis. Depends on the size of your transaction, and depends on the customer that that for how long that you are using the Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations as your core ERP system,
Yeah.
right? So at some point that we may need to think of like what to do with my transactional tables, because of the data growth in the tables is going to hit my performance. It's going to hit my database maintenance related activities. And of course, it is somewhere the data storage has been increasing. So it hit that the storage cost. So answer to all those questions and the problems, that we come up with the solution that is the data archive with long-term retention.
All the answer to all, the solution to all our problems, right?
Yeah.
So as I understand it, it's actually like a two-step process. It's not just that we move it out of FNO out to long-term retention storage, but there is actually a middle step that we take to get there.
Yep. So, like the as a implementation of the data archive feature, definitely we want to reduce the data from our live tables, so that the transactional tables will be the lightweighted, and so that we get the performance, the improvement. However, like if you are not ready from the other side, like what next after the data archive, and the very next day of that your successful run of the data archival, so the live records have been deleted, and someone come to you, ask that the question like, I got the inquiry about that particular sales order or that particular the GL, the ledger that was been posted, wanted to do that the inquiry, where can I see those records? So as a part of the data archival, we are deleting the data from the live table, and we are creating those records within that the FNO. We call it as a history table. So that data is getting deleted from the live table is will get copied into the history table, and of course, as a part of the data archive, those records, all that my live plus archive records will get copied, and on daily basis it will get synchronized into the managed data lake. So that way, that our customers can use the managed data lake. It's a SaaS solution. So using Fabric, you can perform the inquiry on those managed data lake tables, and you can build your Power BI reports and the way that you want to inquiry into that, those records. But coming to that particular point regarding that the history table, so we have given that the scenarios, the scenarios have already been built. So for those scenarios, Microsoft has built read-only forms. We call it as inquiry forms on top of that the history table, so that as a business users, you can go to the FNO archive workspace, and you can do that the inquiry of that particular records that you wanted to see. So you don't need to go anywhere else within the FNO that you have a data.
No, exactly. And but I mean, but from a storage, I've read through a lot of the documentation here and tried it out. It's really fun to kind of look at the reports and to see the actual growth and how the tables coming at it as a nerd. It's more of a from an application performance perspective. I see this as two things, right? It's one is cost driven, of course, because cost is important, and it's not super cheap with live data as it is right now. But the other is, and I think that's the main point of this, is of course performance and long term, long term runnability. I mean, at the end you hit some kind of limit somewhere. You need to be able to archive. So that's the main purpose or the main usability I see here, because those history tables that you refer to, they are also, I mean, even if the table data is stored there, they don't have all the indexes and all this bloat around the live tables, right? So they are also smaller, just by design, basically. But they're not used for reporting. They're just to be able to undo if you archive, right? That's how it works. If I
Yep.
archive something by mistake, or I for any reason figure out I need to restore it, you can restore it off the history tables. But once it's purged from the history tables, I can no longer restore it back into FNO.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that is what that by design it is like that,
Yeah.
and that is what that it is little bit different than the what archive solution that we have in C,
Yeah.
because the C it is used the similar technology, but there is no point to restore. But that is the difference in the FNO,
Yeah.
because the data reside within that the FNO database itself in the history table, of course,
Yeah.
and that is the reason that the restore functionality will be easy.
Yeah.
And another point that you made a point about that, definitely the question would be from the customers, like if you are copying the data from my one table to the another table,
Mm.
how can you blame that, that we are here to save your cost? So answer to that the question is like, the each table consists of two part. One is the data, and the one is the index.
Yeah.
So when you copy that the data from live table to the history table, live table we required the lots of indexes.
Yeah.
Inventrans is a classic example. I can say around 20 plus indexes definitely it would be there, right? Because of the this is the table which is being used by inventory transactions, and for all the reporting wherever that you perform any kind of the transaction related to the inventory, it will create update the records in the inventory transactions. So this is the reason lots of indexes, and that
Yeah.
index it occupies that its own space.
Yeah.
So the normally table that we have seen, that if it is 100 GB of my inventrans table, definitely the 30 GB will be kind of the data, and the kind of the 70 GB, 70%, 60 to 70% would be the index size.
Yeah.
So if I bring that particular, if I perform the archival of the 100 GB of my inventrans table, I will bring the 30 GB of the data, I will put it into the history table, so
Mm.
that my reduction of the 100 GB over there, it is increased the 30 GB, so that my gain is around 70 GB.
Yeah.
Another thing is the important points on the history table is that our Microsoft best practice recommendation is keep minimum number of the indexes, one or two max. That is what that you are going to save, because of in the history table is not meant for the reporting.
No,
History table
exactly.
is just only for the inquiry purpose.
Yeah.
If you want to build your analytics, your reporting, use the managed data lake, and you
Yeah.
can
Of
build
course.
your analytics and the reporting.
Yeah, and that makes total
So that
sense,
is
of
what
course. I
this,
mean,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, otherwise it would make no sense to just copy it to another table within the same platform.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
makes no sense at all. And I completely understand. It feels very nice coming from like experience. Someone ran a batch job archiving my invoices. They shouldn't have done that. It's very nice to be able to have that cushion, that restore operation back. So that was a very nice architectural move, I think.
And the
Being
architecture
able to undo.
perspective, yeah, architecture perspective, the thing is like we are not using batch job, so we
No, of
go
course.
away from using that the batch job.
It's low level, I
We
understand, but
use,
it's more like,
yeah, it's a
someone will
microservice
do
based
wrong.
architecture.
Yeah, exactly. But someone will most likely archive things by mistake, and then it's very nice to not have to kind of invent a way to reverse engineer it back from Dataverse back into FNO. So I think that was a nice thing to have. But as you say, the cost saving will come, like the actual purging of the data will from an FNO side. The cost saving will only be there like fully once you actually delete the data. So that's another thing to analyze, and
So the
it
one part
makes
of the cost saving is you bring the data into the history table, so that the 50 we normally that we have seen with that our experience with the customers, kind of 50, on an average up to 50% of the
yeah
saving of that particular data. And we are working on that the feature, additional feature called the purge, so that the naming convention could be the difference based on that to target to that particularly related to the what the terminology it would be. But in the layman terminology, I can say purge, so that will delete the data from live table, sorry, my bad, into the history table. So yeah, and as a result of that particular the deletion or the purge of the history table, data will reside in the managed data lake. So that at that point, the managed data lake will contain live plus archive data. And there is a, as a part of that archival, there is a specific column that has been added. The name of the column in the FNO database is sys data state code. So the value 0, that means it is a live record. When you run your data archival job, those as a part of the marking stage, like whatever the criteria you provide in your query criteria, rather that you give it to that your archival job, that particular data contract, those records will get marked into the FNO first, and those marked record will get copied into the history table, will get deleted into the FNO, and those
yeah
marked records will get updated in the managed data lake as a sys data state code equal to 1. So
yeah
any point of time, if you query to that managed data lake using your fabric, and if you check for the sys data state code equal to 0, that means these are the live records. When you say the sys data state code equal to 1, these are all the archive records.
okay
Yep. Yep. I mean, one of the reason why I said that I think this is a really big thing is that prior to this, in especially in AX, when you ask finance, would you like to keep in the database, their answer is always everything. And in that case, it was a fairly, I wouldn't say inexpensive thing, because it still cost a lot of money, because you needed to add SAN storage, you needed to add backups, I mean, there was a lot of things that costed more when you added more storage and more disk and so on. But compared to what you pay per gigabyte in Dataverse or in Azure in this case, it's still a cheap solution. And also the reason was that the people who ordered the data to be kept wasn't the ones that saw the invoice for the cost. They didn't see the cost, because the cost was IT's and the data was finance. In this case, it's a license cost, and it's a cost that hits finance directly. And I think that's also a very interesting part, because we have never had to decide what do we need to keep and what don't we need to keep. I was in a business case with a customer not that long ago, where we had a consultant from another company working with the customer, who said that we are not allowed to delete anything. And I was like, I think you do. No, we're not. Yeah, but there are laws that tells you how long you need to keep it, and you don't need to keep it longer than what the law in each country says.
Correct. In the region.
But they had confused it with the fact that if you get sued, for instance, and you have kept it, then you're required to still keep it. You can't remove it after you got hit by a lawsuit. But that's not the same as you were forced to keep it before you got
Forever.
sued. You could have deleted
Wherever
it
that you did, yes.
the day before, and no one would have said anything, because it's allowed. There is a law that says that, for instance, in Sweden, I think it's like 7 years. We need to keep some
Similar
transactions.
thing in USA as well. That for us,
Yeah,
it's like particularly the customers in the public sector, they're required to, as a part of SOX compliance, the 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. We have 7 years in Sweden as well. I mean, in some cases, to be a data administrator, you need to be have legal counsel as well as Johan. I think that's what your point is, Johan. It's a data management thing with disks and backups, but it's also, I mean, when I start moving data out, I need to be very, very sure what I'm moving out of the system. From a legal perspective. But it's true, this feature is built upon the already existing long-term storage in Dataverse, right? So in Power Platform CE, the same retention functionality is being used, correct? Yeah.
Yep.
So when we activate this feature, we're basically activating the managed data lake, because you brought that up earlier, and I think that's a very interesting point, the BI story of it as well. Because when we archive a table using this solution, we're basically synchronizing the entire table, right, to Dataverse.
Correct.
And then in Dataverse, as well as in FNO, we can archive whatever we want to archive, but the live table will still be synced. So the storage will still be in Dataverse as well as in FNO. So if you're not doing any BI in Dataverse, that means that you will still have additional storage in Dataverse. So it's kind of, but if you are doing reporting in Dataverse, then it means that you can actually leverage the same tables for your reporting needs, right?
Correct. So it has been like, if you are aware of the BPA, so that BPA is also used
I'm using it.
the Dataverse, and the FNO archive. Behind the scene, it is a kind of the similar terminology that is being used, and the technology is almost similar that is being used. And we keep on syncing the live tables into the managed data lake, so that either you can use it in the BPA, or you can use it as your own lake of the perspective, like you can build that your own your own analytics. And we are moving towards that, the one lake, the scenario, right? So there it would be easy from the reporting and analytics perspective, that it will make our customers and the partner can easily build their reports and an analytics story.
But that means that you are not able to activate archiving if you're not using. You are only able to activate it through through one lake, through the managed data lake?
Data archival, yes, because of when and you just mentioned about the Gustav that you mentioned about the particular the legal compliance and all the stuff,
Yeah.
right? So when we bring that particular data out of the FNO, like it's not only one table. Like if the GL, it's around 10 tables. When I talk about the sales order, it's around 13 to 14 tables,
Yeah.
right? So when you just bring that the particular data out of the FNO, it bring that all the records related to like into the child tables,
Yeah.
where it has been touch based. On top of that, if you have your own custom table that store the data related to that sales order, and if you want to plug in your own table, you will be able to easily add it. Of course, using that, but yes, with a small set of the extension of that existing the framework class, you will be able to plug in your own table, and that you can enable your own table into the archival of out of box scenario.
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, exactly. Just tag into
Yeah,
the framework, so we have the
correct.
supporting fields needed to mark the
Correct.
records, right?
Yeah. So that even
Once
that
we have
if you have
those.
a custom tables, if you have created the custom tables, it will be the one of the mandatory criteria to create all those custom fields in the history table as well as into the BI entity, because technically behind the scene it use a virtual entity, the framework.
So if
So
I'm
that
using BPA, I'm using the same entities, or we're in this feature, we're using the same entities and the same storage for anything that we
correct,
are using for BPA as well as archiving. That will like be the same storage in Dataverse. Is that correct?
correct.
Yeah, but
Yes.
then it makes total sense because that's why we can leverage, because the cost in Dataverse isn't that cheap either. So it means if I move my data to Dataverse, I can use it for archiving and reporting, and it's an easier sellable use case for Johan's finance people, where he has to explain the costs, right?
But like if you just see that the particular the cost the report after execution of the data archival, you can easily track those records in the archive into the database size of the your dataverse, and
Yeah,
all the tables will have a suffix retained hyphen
exactly.
retained. So that means that these are all the tables that is being charged for the capacity of
Mhm.
that particular storage occupied by those tables in the managed data lake, and Microsoft charge for the archive records.
Yeah. But you can have a different policy there, right? Because if I'm using Dataverse for reporting the managed data lake, I may want to keep my data for a much, much longer period for reporting needs than I do for in FNO for like performance needs. Because if I move all my reporting, my sales reporting and BI reporting out of FNO to managed data lake, then I necessarily don't want to keep a lot of data in FNO for performance reasons, but I want to keep it longer in Dataverse, right? So you can have
Yeah,
varying. The policy I set up in FNO doesn't delete anything in Dataverse, right? It
correct,
deletes in FNO.
exactly.
Yeah,
Correct. And that is what the sys data state code that the column that I mentioned about.
yeah,
So let I can just explain that particular is with two scenarios. Let's say I have created the sales table, sorry, sales order,
mm,
and the tomorrow I just come to know like I don't need that particular order. I just need to delete it. So
yeah,
I will delete it from the FNO. Since it's a normal delete action, that record will get it will synchronize into the managed data lake, and this record will get deleted. However, the day after tomorrow, I will run that my data archival job, and that particular data archival job will delete the record from the live table. But those deletion is been triggered by that particular marking of those records. And when that particular delete action has been identified, using that the marking of those records will not get deleted from your managed data lake. So that is the
okay,
difference between that the how that the deletion will happen to the
yeah,
normal delete action and the data archival action.
okay. I think I understand, and I mean it drives the point as well. I saw a discussion on feedback programs. I mean, surrounding this um, data management topic, because it's a very huge topic from an FNO
Yeah.
perspective. I saw someone requesting. I know I've been working a lot with retail. I mean,
Mhm.
like throughout the history of AX 2009, 2012, you've always used this top 10 reports in SQL, and it's always the same tables. It's always event
Yeah.
trends, and it's always the history tables, and it's always and they keep coming back. And in retail, it's always the payment transactions, which are causing like 50% of the storage is just blobs in payment trans. But that was already solved with the compression of tokens, another feature that was in. So the answer to data management is not only archiving, right?
Yep.
It's a story where you have to monitor all the batch jobs for cleanup, as you mentioned, the sales farm line, sales farm tables as well. So
Yep.
that's a new role, I think, Johan, that we need to make sure that everyone has as well. Apart from maintaining all your processes, you need someone to maintain and monitor all the archiving jobs and all the
Correct.
cleanup jobs running, that they are running, because otherwise you will see degradation of performance very soon.
One thing that I also thought about was that you mentioned that there is, of course, a way to. This is not just an archiving solution for certain entities. It's basically a framework for us to create our own archiving solutions for
Yes.
specific
Correct.
entities. Right now, if I don't remember wrong, you have 3 different entities that you are archiving.
Currently, we are in
Right.
the public preview. Yeah, so we are in the public preview of the data archive feature, that where we have enabled 3 scenarios: GL, sales order, and inventory transactions.
Yes.
We are testing text transaction and inventory journal as a kind of private preview with selective customers,
Mm.
Mhm.
and that will also get included in the public preview soon. Just
Yep. Yep.
there are few
Yep.
more the test results that we may need to see and review. Based on that
Yeah.
particular results, we should able to publish it.
Yes.
And
But
detailed
that also
transaction
means
using
that
the, yeah.
that also means that if I have something I want like to archive that you haven't started on yet, or that you are not going to build, we can actually build our own
Correct.
archiving
So
solution.
framework is ready. Yes. So
Yeah.
now that the framework is ready, and we will publish that documentation soon on that particular and we are in touch with some of that our ISV vendors, that
Yep.
because they are the first party for us, like that, to support their solution from the archival.
So the
So.
thing I like about that is that
Mhm.
we have a colleague, me and Gustav, who is working with a company who generates a humongous amount of journals. I
Mhm.
mean, very many. It doesn't correspond to transactions all the time, but it's a lot of journals. And
Mhm.
the thing is that would I actually encourage them to start using something other than journals to
Mhm.
do what they do, because it sort of gives them another pattern to use in this case, because these temporary journals that they are creating today, they could actually be something else, not general journals in the solution, but something else, which means that you could have a more aggressive archiving policy towards
Correct.
those,
Yeah.
Yep. So in
because
that particular case,
they are not legally binding, or they are not there for legal reasons, they were there for other reasons, and in
yeah,
that
business
case you could
results, yeah,
actually
that we need to continue. Yeah.
you
Mm.
could force them out earlier and so on.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I have one thing that I also, the first time I heard about the archiving, I actually had a wish. And
Mhm.
because me and Gustav, we have customers. I'm guessing that everyone has a customer, at least one, more, probably all of them, that are keeping this old like AX 2009, AX
Yep.
2012 environment
Correct.
around. It's on a VM. Hopefully it's in Azure and it's shut down, but it's still there. It still costs money and it's still available. It
Yep.
would be fantastic if we were to be able to least have some guidance to take that data and to push it into the archiving solution. That would be nice, because then we wouldn't have to keep old like Windows 2008 servers and SQL 2008 servers around just to be able to access the data.
That's the good point, Johan, I would say. Yeah. So that is like not the archiving, but that I would categorize that particular requirement as my analytics need. I just want to
Yeah.
bring my either 2009 or 2012 data out of that my the old ERP. I want to bring it to that my bring your own lake, or that wherever that is my one lake, that wherever it fit, and then I want to continue with my analytics need, so that with my forecasting could be the probably the one of that depends on that nature of my business. I want 5 years of the forecasting, last 10 years of depends, right? So if I wanted to see the trend, I want to do the trend analysis or anything kind of that particular analytics need. Yes, I need that my data. So probably like currently just we used to ask our customers to take it into the your lake, and then you continue with your analytics need. Like
Yep,
you don't
yep,
need
yeah.
to keep your that your 2012 or the 2009 system turn on, to just go manually and have a look at. Yeah.
But there is another aspect of it as well, and that is I think most customers don't keep it for analytical reasons. They keep it for just in case. So
Yep.
it was
Legal
also
reasons.
nice to be able to get the data from the old AX 2009 or 2012 database in a format where it makes sense. It provides analytics, but it also gives us the option to dig into that specific invoice in that specific case.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a tricky use case. I mean, it all depends on
Correct.
how mature your analytical team is. Either we have already built a lot of nice dashboards for a lot of data, and then it's like you say, Purvesh, it's just getting the data into the lake and making sure that it's in the model that we use. Then it's just a matter of
Correct.
like any migration or any data extract that we do. This kind of borders on the legal question because I've been in this discussion before. It's not
Mhm.
enough that we can give you the cost invoice journal table. We need to be able to replicate the
From
actual
the, yep.
document, and that's where the problem comes in many cases. Is it worth spending money on doing that rather than keeping the old system? I don't know for all reasons, but that's
Yep.
where the complexity comes in. But in the end, as you say, Purvesh, it's just a lake. It's a data lake.
Correct.
It's a managed lake. You can bring your own data into it, and I think that's where the key component of the archiving solution comes in the discussion at least. How mature are you to start using the managed lake in Dataverse to cover your reporting needs? You might have a different solution for it. So it's important to understand what you're getting here is not only just your data copied to another location. You're getting a data repository that you can leverage in your analytical solutions, and the cost that comes with it, of course, that needs to be
Yeah. So you need the
careful.
kind of to inquiry that particular data on that particular managed data lake. Yes, you will be required of fabric capacity,
Yeah,
and and that fabric capacity comes with the different the capacity size.
yeah,
So business as a customer, you can review that. What is my need. Accordingly, you can choose that the capacity, and you may need to pay. So it is not like that. That I have only need to perform inquiry sometime or once in a week or time. So probably I will go with that the lowest capacity kind of the F2, where I will just pay only few dollars,
yeah.
and it is also pay as you go. But if I am the customer, like the giant customer, like I have completely built that my analytics and everything on top of that, might be that I may need, and my transaction volume is also high. So definitely I may need to go choose that, the high fabric capacity.
Yeah, of course.
So it's not like that, that I can say that the ant and the elephant is paying the same. No, it
No, of
depends on
course.
the size of that, the
Oh yeah.
speed that you need. Yep.
Yeah, and the maturity as well. And I mean, the business case here is if we're already doing your analytics on Dataverse, and it also lights up a lot of Power Platform scenarios just getting that data into Dataverse. There's a lot of benefits of it. It's just to be clear about what you're using and what you're doing, what you're using it for, and it's very nice that it's the same. We're not like using BPA. We get a lot of nice models and nice data, and then we activate archiving, and then we just duplicate it. It's nice that it's not
Yep.
that we're leveraging the same entities and the same
Same entity. Yep.
the same architecture, and that makes total sense to me.
Correct. And on top of that, that particular scheduling that your the data archive job, it allow you to whether you want to run immediately or you want to start executing it from that my off business hours. On top of that, it allow you to schedule that your job, like you decide you want to run it in during that your off business hours. You can specify the time, and based on that, that particular archival will run on that time, except that the initial sync is going to it will run through all the time. The reason behind is that it's a one time activity syncing the data from live table to the managed data lake, but it's a one time effort. but
Okay.
then continuously it will be incremental sync.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the first time, of course, takes longer. I have a super
Yeah.
technical question. When you do the initial purging or initial archiving of data, moving from live table to
Mhm.
history table, um, is it also then triggering database maintenance jobs, or is there any risk of like ongoing indexing jobs being impacted? Because if I remove a lot of data from my tables, you need
Mhm.
to update the indexes as well, right? You might need to run some database maintenance jobs. Is there a best time to run the archiving jobs during night, or is there any risk of like database maintenance jobs being affected by the archiving?
That's the good question, Gustav. So, answer to that particular question is now that Microsoft Dynamics is a SaaS solution.
Yeah,
Database maintenance activity is responsibility of Microsoft, right?
yeah,
So we have DAMS system. So that is the algorithm that has been written,
yeah,
and it keep on reviewing that the performance. So like in the earlier days, it was a part duty of the database administrator, right? They
yeah.
keep on eye on that the execution of the query performance of the database, and accordingly they used to take the corrective action. Same thing, it has been made in the SaaS solution. It has been taken care by DAMS.
Yeah.
So DAMS is that the kind of agent that who keep an eye on the performance of your database whenever it required. Like this query need to be optimized, need to be fine tuned,
Mm,
database index need to be rebuilt. It will 24 hours, 24 by 7, it will keep an eye on that your production database. Whenever that it get the window, the time, it will trigger the job and it will
mm.
execute,
Okay.
right? So it is not like that it is a night time. It could be if it get the window, the ideal time to perform the database maintenance on that specific table, on that specific index,
Mm.
it will keep on doing it.
Yeah. Right. I understand. So it's we need to be mindful as always when we do any large operations in specifically production, but it will self heal basically.
Yeah, and on
Yeah.
top of that, currently it's we are in the public preview. We are taking the continuously feedback,
Yeah.
and we are working on that kind of that the functionality that will come soon. That is called the kind of pause functionality. So if you are expecting some big payload to be executed, on your
Yeah.
production environment, and you don't want that the archive to make any kind of the trouble, so you forcefully make that the archival job to take a pause sometime
Okay.
and let that my payload run in my business hours, and then I can just simply resume that where it was
Yeah.
being paused.
It'll pick up with a bit of a load, but it will
Exactly.
pick up. Yeah. I
Yeah.
understand.
So these are the what like that the feedback, and as a part
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the continuous improvement of that our product, that is
Yeah.
what that
Cool.
we are working on.
Cool. And as you say, Johan, I mean, I think for a majority of our, will be playing it safe, of course, and trying it out, of course, in sandboxes, etc., to kind of get a understanding of how long it takes. But then you have these, and I have believe you guys with the telemetry data, you have maybe have customers
Yeah.
like the top one big data customer. It will be a very controlled effort to archive it,
Yeah.
but it varies
So
with size, of course.
yeah. So like I have been engaged with that customers, like we're having a few 100 million to few billion records, and that we
Yeah.
are just testing with the data archive. So yeah. So like all the different segments, different geography, in the different size, that
Yeah.
we want to run it, the test it, and see that that how it works.
Yeah, there must be a fun dashboard that you guys have. Like, okay, I want to
Yeah.
see all the customers with the largest databases. Okay, here they are. And then you can just hello. can I
Exactly.
can I reach
Yep.
out to you for a question? That's very nice.
Yep. Yep.
All right, Johan, do you have anything else? I think it's been a very interesting talk, Purvesh, and I really look forward to stay in touch. And just shout out if you haven't joined the feedback programs on. I was going to say Yammer, but Viva Engage, of course, to stay in touch. You guys do not monthly meetings, but you do have well, reoccurring meetings, right? And information posted
Uh,
there.
yeah, so we are hosting that. We call it as office hours, the Yammer
Yeah.
office hours on that our the Yammer channel. We are going to increase now that we are in the public preview. So we already made that announcement, and probably from the next Monday on, next Tuesday onward. Earlier it was a bi-weekly, and we are going to make it a weekly.
Oh,
So
okay.
we'll be meeting weekly basis. We cover US. It's a two. We host the two meetings. One is cover the APEC time zone. Another is the US and the
Yeah.
Europe time zone. So that we get a opportunity to get the feedback from all over the globe. The maximum number of customers and partners joined at the office hours and just share the feedback, as well as we take it as an opportunity to make the announcement about that, any particular change in the data archive.
Yeah. Very nice. Thank you so much, Purvesh, for joining us. And we had a very interesting conversation. I really look forward to trying out the archiving solution even more with actual, not just Contoso data. It's fun, but it's not like
It's a
real
real
data.
data. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. To use the real data. And I wish you a pleasant day. Take care, Purvesh. Thank you.
Thank you. And just feel free to reach out to me in case of that if you need any help on the data archive stuff. My name is Purvesh Vaghasia. My email address is pvaghasia@microsoft.com. So if you have any questions related to the data archive, feel free to reach out. I will be happy to help.
Take care, Purvesh, and very good work with the archiving.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.